how are you sitting with violence? How do you sit with the violence that you've honed yourself to? You can justify it in any way that you want, but in reality, it's always better to be a warrior that's a gardener, not a gardener that's a warrior. I totally get that. And
Mm.
I think anybody that understands my past, they're not going to question my validity to project violence or to be, someone who can perform at a very high caliber in that environment.
Yeah.
But the thing is like how, just like you mentioned before, how has that changed you? You know what I'm saying? Like the thing
Yeah,
that all of
exactly.
these fucking podcasts and social media bullshit and movies and fucking uh TV series, all this stuff, this John Wick fucking bullshit,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
how has that changed that? Ask someone who has been a professional fucking warrior, how does that felt to kill someone? How has that felt to brutalize another population? How has that felt? Either and if they have some kind of bullshit comeback, either they haven't felt it or they just haven't moved past it. They're not willing to feel the things that they've experienced. And I think that we owe it to ourselves. Like, again, that comes back to that resolve and that intention. That intention must be self mastery at the sake of your ego. So if you're experiencing things and you sit with the aftermath of things, how have they changed you is the real question. What do you take with you and what do you leave behind? And I think those are the real powerful questions. They did a program in Vietnam, uh, and this program was a mindfulness thing. There's a beautiful book that was written about it. It's called In Search of the Warrior Spirit,
Hmm.
and the author, I think, was Richard Strozzi Heckler. But basically, they had this program that they wanted to teach mindfulness techniques to the Green Berets. And at the time, special operations was a relatively new concept. And to ad lib the book, to really boil it down to the point that I'm trying to make, they found the more that they taught meditative disciplines to special operations troops, and at the time, the Green Berets were a very new thing, organized troops that were specifically trained and selected to do covert operations, or to act independently of direct leadership. When you teach people like this meditative disciplines, they become very nonviolent. They
Mm.
become they become strangely so. And so one of the stories in this book is of a LERP team, or like a reconnaissance team, captured an NVA scout. And so basically they caught a version of themselves that was the enemy. Like they basically caught a special forces reconnaissance troop. And whenever you capture people like that in these circumstances, you do a field interrogation, which is you torture them. You torture them and you kill them. And so they're in this now. These are Green Berets that were uh, trained in these meditative disciplines
Mm.
of attempting to regulate their brainwave states or their temperature, or through visualization, create more endurance or power out of their physical bodies. And so this was a government program to teach them this stuff. And so these guys were in Vietnam. They captured this scout, and they're doing a field interrogation, i.e., torturing this young NVA scout, who is basically just an enemy version of themselves. And they're going through this guy's rucksack, and they're doing horrible things to this guy, and they're about to kill him. And they dump out this guy's knapsack. And one of the things they find is a toothbrush that's been cut down to the nub. And it's interesting, anybody that's been in any special operations unit, you get so fanatical about the things that you carry, you trim the weight down by cutting your toothbrush down to nothing. And so what they found is, even in that severe dichotomy of us and them, of good and bad, they had more in common with the person that they were brutalizing than any other person in the world. The things that they were fighting for.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting, It's like, to use that story, I
That's
think
wild.
that the greater question is really, how are your experiences changing you? At what point do your experiences surpass your resolve and your intention? Because when they do, that's the point of growth. That is the point of discomfort.